The 44th regular meeting of the Conference of the Heads of Government of the Caribbean Community, CARICOM, kicks off in Bahamas. In Syria, the Council of Ministers discussed a recovery plan following the earthquake. And Nicola Sturgeon resigned as Scotland's First Minister after more than 8 years in office. From the headquarters of TeleSUR English in Havana, Cuba, this is From the South. I'm your anchor, Gladys Quesada, and these are the news. Bahamas hosts the 44th regular meeting of the Conference of Heads of Government of the Caribbean Community, CARICOM, from February 15th to the 17th. The three-day meeting will be held under the chairmanship of the host nation's Prime Minister, Honorable Philip Davis. Food security, climate change, and climate finance, health and security will be among the major topics to be discussed by the bloc's heads of government. During a press conference held on Tuesday, prior to the opening of the conference, Davis referred to the challenges faced by the bloc and called for unity and determination in order to build a better future for the region.
Facing monetary security that is spilling over borders. For everyone's sake, we must help to build and support Haitian-led solutions. No one nation can alone solve these very serious challenges. I am confident, however, that together we are stronger. Together we can make real progress and move the region and the people of the Caribbean forward towards a safer, brighter day.
Bahamas Prime Minister Philip Davis also stated that the heads of state and government of the Caribbean Community, CARICOM, could agree to send troops to Haiti. The host of the 44th regular meeting of the Conference of Heads of Government that begins this Wednesday in Nassau recalled during a press conference that on February the 1st, the Jamaican Parliament authorized Prime Minister Andrew Holness to send soldiers and police to Haiti and stated that the initiative could turn into a regional cooperation that would form a multinational force. However, Davis stressed that this would require the support of larger countries because they do not have the necessary resources. The last time there was a foreign presence in Haiti was from 2004 to 2017, when the United Nations deployed its troops in the island following the coup against the then president Jean-Bertrand Aristide. For many social and political organizations, the occupation was a failure due to allegations of sexual and human rights violations perpetrated by the foreign forces, the introduction of cholera in the island, and the impossibility of achieving the objective of pacifying the country.
I'm proud of being the oldest integration movement in the developing world, but we cannot afford complacency when so much is left undone. We must act now to mobilize our union in the interests of our people. Climate crisis threatens our existence. We must make our people and communities stronger in the face of intensifying hurricanes, while working together to hold countries and corporations to the commitments they have made. This issue demands our focus and determination. The global inflation crisis has led to soaring food prices and reminded everyone in our region that we need to invest at home in sustainable agriculture, grow more of what we eat, and build stronger intra-regional trade.
On Tuesday, U.S. authorities arrested 4 more people in the slaying of Haitian President Jovenel Moïse, including the owner of a Miami area security company that hired ex-Colombian soldiers for the mission, according to the announcement made by the prosecutors. The number of detained for the assassination of the former president in July 2021 now rises to over 50, including those arrested in Haiti and the United States. Among the new arrests are those of Antonio Itriago and Arcángel Pretel, heads of the Miami-based companies CDU security. According to the investigation, CDU was in charge of hiring some 20 Colombian ex-soldiers for the operation, which authorities said was originally envisioned to be a coup rather than an assassination. Despite the arrests, the case is far from being solved, particularly in regards to intellectual authority. As with some of the men previously indicted, at least one of the new captured was an informant for the U.S. law enforcement. This is the case of Archangel Pretel, an FBI informant at the time of Moises' murder. Honduras National Congress reached an agreement on Wednesday to elect new judges to the Supreme Court of Justice. After overcoming the impasse on the election process for the 15 judges of the judiciary, the names of the candidates were announced on Tuesday. The Congress plenary session was held on Wednesday, where the 15 new officials were sworn in. The president of the Honduran parliament, Luis Redondo, congratulated the political forces represented in the legislature. After electing the 15 judges, 10 of them will vote to choose the new president of the Supreme Court. Ecuador's Minister of Agriculture and Livestock, Bernardo Manzano, requested on Tuesday his resignation after being linked to a corruption and drug trafficking scandal involving people close to President Guillermo Lasso. Bernardo Manzano's resignation comes after being mentioned in a series of intercepted telephone conversations with Rubén Cherres, a man close to the executive. In these conversations, Cherres talks about his alleged influence to place certain people in public positions within Guillermo Lasso's administration. Bernardo Manzano is the fifth high-ranking official of Guillermo Lasso's cabinet to ask for his resignation in less than a week. In this way, Guillermo Lasso is living one of the darkest moments of his administration, both for the alleged corruption scandals and for the setback in the local elections of February the 5th, in which he also lost the constitutional referendum he had promoted to consolidate his mandate. The Brazilian Attorney General's office informed on Wednesday the inclusion of 139 new defendants in the process against those involved in the coup attempt of January the 8th, bringing to 835 the total number of the accused. According to a press release from the judicial body, during the raid against the headquarters of the three branches of government in the Brazilian capital, 137 people were arrested in flagrante delicto inside the Planalto Palace, seat of the executive power. Meanwhile, 2 others were arrested in the esplanade of the ministries with firecrackers, knives, tear gas cartridges, and material to make Molotov cocktails. According to the document, the coup plotters face charges for crimes of armed criminal association, violent abolition of the democratic rule of law, coup d'etat, and damage against the union's patrimony.
Que aumentará de inmediato.
Now we move on to other topics. In Peru, human rights organizations and independent lawyers sued the country's appointed president, Dina Boluarte, as well as the ministers and police chiefs of her cabinet on Tuesday for the deaths of 6 demonstrators killed during the December protests in the Apurimac region. The complaint is directed against Boluarte, the former president of the Council of Ministers, Pedro Angulo, and then Minister of Defense and now Prime Minister, Alberto Otárola. Likewise, the former Minister of the Interior, César Cervantes, the General Commander of the Police, Raúl Alfaro, and others responsible for the repression are also included in the accusation. The charges point to the fact that during the first 5 days of demonstrations against Boluarte's assumption of power on December the 7th, 6 deaths, 83 wounded, and dozens of detainees and tortured people were reported at the hands of the police officers under her command. Let's take a short break, but first, remember you can follow us on our TikTok account at TeleSUR English, in which you will be able to see news in different formats, news updates, and more. Other stories coming up, stay with us. Welcome back to From the South. In Turkey and Syria, the death toll after the earthquakes that hit the region in the past week surpasses 41,000 as rescue works continue. Turkish authorities reported 35,418 people have been killed in the country. For its part, the Syrian government and the UN said more than 5,800 people died in Syria. Meanwhile, surprise rescues continue on day 10th after the 7.8 and 7.6 earthquakes that hit both countries on February the 6th. On Wednesday, a 74-year-old woman was pulled alive from the rubble by rescue teams in Kahramanmaraş, 227 hours after the first quake. In that region is near the epicenter of the first earthquake. On Wednesday, in Syria, the Council of Ministers began deliberations on a recovery plan following the earthquake. The country's ministers discussed a recovery plan which requires conducting studies and preparing a database of the affected areas in order to rehabilitate and develop them. Prime Minister Hussein Arnous said the present circumstances require swift action to overcome all the damage caused by the earthquake. Authorities also said aid will be distributed to all those affected by the disaster, and alternatives will be sought to ensure housing centers for homeless families until the destroyed neighborhoods are rehabilitated. The Syrian President Bashar al-Assad met on Wednesday with Mirjana Spoljaric-Egger, the president of the International Committee of the Red Cross, the ICRC, to address the humanitarian crisis in the quake-hit country. During the meeting, Egger confirmed that the ICRC is seeking to provide the Syrian people with basic needs and to provide everything necessary to help them overcome the difficult situation they are going through in the aftermath of the devastating quake. The Red Cross president also indicated that the organization is working to mobilize efforts to expand the scope of its humanitarian operations all over the Syrian territory. Meanwhile, President al-Assad renewed his government's neediness on delivering aid to all areas across the country to provide relief to the affected. Now we address other topics. In the United States, Ohio officials said that toxic chemicals released last week after about 50 cars derailed in a ferry crash have entered the Ohio River. During a press conference to provide an update on water and air safety in the state, Ohio Governor Mike DeWine said he personally spoke with Chief Executive Officer of Norfolk Southern Railway, who promised the company will remain in the area until the damage was completely cleared. Contaminants from the derailed cars spilled into some waterways and were toxic to fish, but officials have said drinking water in the area has remained protected.
Him directly if he would personally guarantee that the railroad would stay there until absolutely everything was cleaned up. He gave me his word and his commitment that the railroad would do that. They would not leave until that was done.
We're seeing very low levels of contaminants, and so all of the treatment being done at those water systems take out any contamination before it finished water. So I can't envision that there would be any risk that has already occurred.
The director of the Institute for Agricultural Development in Chile, Santiago Roja, has explained that the forest fires that continue to affect the country will result in serious damage to soils, fruits and vegetables, which could even take years to recover from. According to the office, more than 425,000 hectares in the regions of Ñuble, Biobío and Araucanía in south-central Chile are affected by the fires, which also caused the death of 25 people and thousands of animals. At the moment, 60 of the 206 active fires are still out of control. Likewise, the Minister of the Interior, Carolina Doha, confirmed the death of the 25th casualty, a brigade member who was crushed to death by a tree when he was digging a fire break to prevent the flames from spreading. South African authorities confirmed on Wednesday that the floods triggered by the heavy rains have killed at least 12 people after the presidency declared a national state of disaster. Officials from the Department of Cooperative Governance and Traditional Affairs stated the bad weather, which is expected to last for the rest of the week, struck the east, north and south, claiming lives in 4 of the country's 9 provinces. The department also said that the Kruger National Park, the largest reserve in South Africa, was badly affected by the rains. According to the South African Weather Service, heavy rains started to fall last week after a cold snap in the middle of the summer. New Zealand government on Wednesday confirmed 3 deaths after Cyclone Gabrielle cut a trail of destruction across the northern region of the country. Authorities are now assessing the extent of damage caused by the cyclone in isolated villages where floodwaters drained roads and shut down communications and power supplies. According to local sources, crews rescued about 300 people from rooftops and another 60 people group from a large building abandoned by floodwaters. New Zealand faces a national state of emergency for the 3rd time in the country's history, following the Christchurch bombings of 2019 and the COVID-19 pandemic.
Yesterday we went for a walk before it started raining again, and it was quite bad. We saw that a lot of the access ways had been washed away. Some houses have kind of lost the bottom of it, so they're kind of falling onto the beach. Yes, I'd say it's quite bad around here.
Oh, it just rained and the wind blew. Our house is about 70 years old. It's a little cottage, probably built by the people who just occupied it originally, and so we're a little bit concerned that it might blow away or flood.
And we have more news coming up after a final short break, so stay with us. Welcome back. On Wednesday, Russia's defense ministry announced that national forces completely demined the Azovmash heavy engineering plant in the port city of Mariupol in Donetsk. According to the ministry statements, this is the first facility to be completely demined since the end of the battles in that city in the spring of 2022. During the fighting between the Russian and Ukrainian forces, the plant, founded in 1958, was severely damaged and littered with mines and explosives by the Kiev troops before they withdrew defeated. Azovmash was the largest machine building enterprise in Ukraine and employed thousands of workers. Chinese President Xi Jinping and his Iranian counterpart Ebrahim Raisi launched bilateral negotiations in the economic, political and other strategic fields. The Iranian president arrived this Tuesday at the head of a large delegation for a 3-day visit in which he seeks to strengthen economic cooperation and enhance relations between the two countries. Among the agreements signed, there are the cooperation agreements on crisis management, tourism, information technology, environment, international trade, agriculture and health. In addition, the head of the Iranian-China Chamber of Commerce informed that Iran will open its commercial representation in China to facilitate the closing of agreements to be established with Chinese business persons. As part of his official visit to China, Iranian President Ebrahim Raisi set a new world order with Asia as its epicenter is taking shape and replacing the previous one. Addressing students, professors, and academic personnel from Peking University in Beijing, the Iranian head of state highlighted the importance of the Asian giant in the emerging world. Meanwhile, Raisi also said that Asia lies at the center of the emerging global development, stressing that protection and promoting peace throughout the vast continent is not only a matter of choice, but an absolute necessity. We have more news. Nicola Sturgeon confirmed on Wednesday she is resigning as Scotland's Prime Minister after more than 8 years in the post. At a press conference, the Scottish National Party leader said this was the right time to step down, while adding she would remain in office until her successor was elected. The soon-to-be former First Minister stated that her decision was not a reaction to short-term pressures, but came from a deeper and longer-term assessment. Sturgeon is the longest-serving First Minister and the first woman to hold the position in the country.
Decision comes from a deeper and longer term assessment. I know it might seem sudden, but I have been wrestling with it, albeit with oscillating levels of intensity for some weeks. I've been First Minister for over 8 years, and I was Deputy First Minister for the best part of 8 years before that. These jobs are a privilege, but they are also rightly hard. And especially in the case of First Minister, relentlessly so. Now, to be clear, I'm not expecting violins here, but I am a human being as well as a politician.
Palestinian prisoners launched protest actions on Wednesday after the Israeli Prisons Authority announced further restrictions on the time and water rations for showers in the Gilboa and Nafha prisons. The Palestinian Prisoners Club said in a statement that Palestinian prisoners started their protest through a decision in early February by the Higher Emergency Committee, the united leadership body of Palestinian prisoners in Israeli prisons. Protest actions include Palestinian prisoners dressing full-time in brown prison uniform as a sign of their readiness to confront the guards. They are also coming out for morning counting with their hands cuffed and stopping all forms of regular life in jail. And we have come to the end of this news brief. But remember, you can find this and many other stories on our website at telesurenglish.net. And also, if you feel so inclined, please join us on social media for all the latest news. We are on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, Telegram, and TikTok. For TeleSUR English, I'm your anchor, Gladys Quesada. Thank you for watching.